Hi, so this is Derek Murphy. The lighting in here is not so great, but I'm in the bar downstairs of the Regent Hotel in Montenegro, and they've let me use this area to record some videos. So this is day one of my book selling challenge. This is something I've wanted to do for a while. It's part of my guerrilla publishing program, which I'm launching this week. Basically, the full program has 24 different steps to selling more books, which is also in the free workbook that you can download. I'll put a link down below. So I wanted to make kind of a short video series for helping people go through the workbook, because I know that sometimes it's difficult to take action and actually implement the things that you need to do, especially if this is your first book, or if you're not selling well. Sometimes it's difficult to just look at your platform and see what's not working. But I'm trying to break this down into very simple, actionable things that you can learn quickly. So I'm going to make a video a day for the next 4 days talking about one big thing, and then I'll ask you to post something on Facebook or YouTube so that you can get some feedback and we can try to figure out how you can do better. So the first one, day one of the book selling challenge, is preparation and platform. So this is the stuff that happens before you actually launch the book. It has to do with positioning your book, figuring out who your audience is, how to attract your audience, how to let your audience know that this book is for them. And this is the biggest mistake that I see a lot of authors making. When you go on the Amazon page, you can't actually tell what the book is. So you really have to think about what kind of book it is, who the book is for, what other books it's similar to, who is looking for those books, and what kind of keywords they're using. So it's really frustrating for me. And this, like a lot of this stuff, should be handled in the book cover. So if the book cover doesn't already immediately communicate the genre, which is done with book covers, the art attracts the attention and hooks the emotion, but the fonts dictate the genre. So if you don't have a really professional designer who's designing your book cover, even if it looks pretty good, it may not be communicating the genre if it has the wrong fonts. So I think a lot of authors, they think that the art is important and the text is just something they throw on afterwards. So they just hire someone to add text, or they do it themselves. But if you're using the wrong fonts and it doesn't look professional, or it doesn't immediately communicate genre, that's going to screw you up, because readers have to be able to look at the cover and immediately know what type of book it is. It should look like other books in the same genre. It should fit in, not stand out. It should be clear, not clever. So a big mistake a lot of authors make is they just think, well, my book is new and different. I don't want it to look like anybody else's cover, so I'm just going to make some art, because my thing is unique. That's all a big problem. You have a product. Readers don't have time to analyze your cover and read your description and try to figure out what your book is about. They're not going to spend that much time investing in figuring out what you've written and whether or not that's the right kind of book for them. So this all has to be taken care of a lot faster. So a mistake I see a lot of authors make in their description is when you get on Amazon, there are no keywords. So they have a description of the story, but there's nothing that says this is a science fiction, this is a young adult fantasy, this is a contemporary romance. If you don't have those descriptions, it hurts you for two reasons. The first is that people are searching for, hold on a second, it says I have a very bad connection. I'll try moving and see if that helps anything. Interesting. I'm in this amazing room, but I'm inside the hotel, which I thought would help better. But it still says I have a very bad connection. So I'll keep going, and hopefully this will still work out. Although I guess the what's it called? So I have a question from Chris. Awareness with Chris. You never responded to my question a while ago. Should I copyright my stories? I think that was the question. No, I don't think you should. If you have questions, you can post them in the comments down below. That way I can leave a more detailed description. I'm going to stick on topic with this video. I even wrote myself some notes because I tend to wander off. So I'm going to keep going. The light's actually better over here. I'm going to skip worrying about the connection right now, and I'll try to solve that problem later. But I was saying, a lot of authors on their Amazon page, they don't put in keyword descriptions. So the reason that it hurts you is that you won't be found by readers who are looking for specific keywords. Readers search for things like best sci-fi or best young adult or contemporary romance. If you don't have keywords in your description, or it's not immediately obvious that that's what your book is with the cover design, that's going to hurt you. So even if they find you and they are the right readers for your books, they may not know that your book is the right book, because for them, they may not know what your book is about, because even if, like, the first step is the book cover. So if they look at your book cover and it doesn't tell them that it's this book in this genre, they'll never read your description. So even if you have keywords in your description, it doesn't matter because you've already screwed up the cover. But if the cover is right and they read the description, and the description doesn't say this is a contemporary romance for fans who like whatever other books, they're still not going to know. So it's really important to say in your book and make it really obvious who this book is for, what it's about, what type of book it is, use some genre keywords, what it's similar to. You can list some other best-selling books or famous authors that's similar to. And that should all be in your description. That should also be in your author bio. So it's important to also tell your author story in a way that makes it clear who you write for and why you write and what you write about. That should be part of your author bio. You know, mine says something like Derek Murphy writes young adult sci-fi and fantasy because that's my genre. You also want to, and this is also your opportunity, if you know your audience, you need to start bonding with them. And you can do that by telling them things about yourself that resonates with them. So you have to know your audience well enough to know what they like, and then mention some things, could be TV shows or movies that you like or you're inspired by, that you know that they also like, because that's an easy way to build trust and likability with your audience. Something I saw recently was The Queen's Poisoner, which is a young adult book, and at the end of the book, he had an author's note. And this was a cool thing I'm going to start doing with my own books. Basically, instead of just, sign up to my list and buy more books from me, it said something like, this is my process for writing the book. This is what inspired me. This is what challenged me. It went through, this is the research that I did. This is where I got the story from or what I based it off of. I think that's, it was really interesting to read, and I think it's a really strong way to build a connection with your audience by letting them into the process and showing them kind of behind the scenes. So let me look down at my notes and see what else. So the problem with, some of the problems with this topic is that some authors don't really write in one genre. So they say things like, my book is cross-genre, I'm not, I don't define myself by one genre, I'm not limited by one genre. So they say things like, I don't want to limit my book by trying to pick a genre. That's going to hurt you, because you need to be able to know who you're targeting. So if you don't know who your readers are and you're not targeting one genre, it's harder to advertise. It's harder to put your book in front of them. It's harder to tell them what kind of book it is. You have to make some decisions. Even if you're cross-genre, even if you write in several genres, you have to make some decisions for this book. Generally, the best decision is going to be picking the broadest genre. So for example, and this is also something a lot of authors hate and resist, is that some genres sell better than other genres. So I can, for example, write a paranormal romance. Maybe it has some werewolves and some vampires and fallen angels, which is really popular with young adult urban fantasy right now. It has a mix of supernatural creatures, but there are more people searching for vampires than any other supernatural entity. Also, for example, dragon shifters are really popular. So I don't necessarily have to write a dragon shifter book. I don't necessarily have to chase the trends, but it's also not a great idea to completely ignore the market, because your sales will always be limited by the amount of people who are willing to spend money on the types of books that you write. So a lot of authors, they're just focused on the art, and they say things like, and the problem is, if you've read any book on writing, most of the books on writing in the craft, they all say ignore the market, focus on your passion. Don't write unless you're passionate about it. Don't write unless you're really excited about the story. A lot of authors say things like they would hate to write a paranormal romance because it would be soul crushing and it would ruin the art for them. They just want to focus on telling the best story. That's totally fine. However, you're going to sell less copies if you write a book that appeals to a smaller market. A lot of the writers who talk about, the art or the craft or writing literature, that's great if you're focused on the craft, but you have to understand that you're going to make less money with your books. And that's not because people don't appreciate literature. That's not because the world is ending or whatever. A lot of authors are frustrated and cynical, and they hate the fact that so many people are making lots of money with dragon shifters, for example. This is a comment from one of my other groups recently. where we got into kind of an argument, because the assumption that people who write dragon shifter romances are selling out or writing crap or writing to the lowest common denominator. I kind of hate that term, because you're assuming that the masses, the majority of readers who buy fiction, you're assuming that they're lower quality people, and that they don't appreciate high literature. So if you write for the lowest common denominator, which is the masses, which is what some people do, you're assuming that that's bad. That's a lower quality writing. It's more easy, maybe it makes more money, maybe, but you're not willing to sell out to make more money. The danger in that, not only is it kind of condescending, but also you're saying that the largest market with the most readers is not the one you want to write for. That's fine, that's your choice. But if you're starting any business and you're building products to satisfy a market and you choose the smallest market, the literary fiction market is 1,000th of the size of the paranormal or urban fantasy market. So if you're writing a literary fiction book and you spend 10 times as long writing it and you think it's 10 times better than some of the other genres, but the market is 100 times smaller, you may have written a great book, but you'll make less money. And that's, again, fine, but it's a personal choice. I don't like people saying, that one is objectively better than the other, because I think the readership should dictate what they like to write. I don't like telling readers what's good for them and kind of looking down my nose at what their preferences are. I write books that readers love and are excited to buy, and that's allowed me to make an income with my writing. You can do the same if you want to make money with your writing. My platform is mostly about helping authors to make money with their writing. So if you're looking for inspiration about how to write better art that doesn't sell, I'm not the right person to follow, but there are a lot of other great writers who talk more about that, about the craft. I think you can write amazing books that are well written, that have craft. I have a PhD in literature. I could write those books if I tried, but I don't, because I'd rather spend my time and get paid for it by writing books that satisfy hot genres. It doesn't mean I'm chasing trends. It doesn't mean I'm writing garbage. But you do have to know what's popular. So the way to do that is with keyword research. You can research and find out what people are searching for, even if you've already written your book, and even if your book isn't what's hot or what's popular, it's still important to use the keywords that people are searching for in your description, in your ads, because you're going to reach a larger audience with less ad spend, and your book is going to convert better. So you do have to know what people are searching for, even if you're writing contemporary literary fiction. You have to know what's selling in that genre. No matter what genre you write, you have to know what's selling in that genre. So you should be reading the top 10 best-selling books in that genre. You should be looking at what they're doing. You should know why they're selling and why readers like that genre. The other mistake I see a lot of people make is that they say things like, wait, let me look at my notes because I got off. So it's the assumption. It's the assumption that if you write for a genre, it's going to be popular. So for example, I wrote a dystopian young adult book recently. Young adult dystopian is a pretty big genre. There's some books selling incredibly well. I should be able to put a best-selling book in that genre and make a lot of money from it. The problem is my dystopian young adult genre doesn't hit all the same buttons that the best-selling stuff does. It doesn't do the same things. I'm still writing a young adult template from like 7 years ago. I'm writing like Twilight and Harry Potter. Part of that's because I started writing and plotting maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm still finishing some projects I mapped out a long time ago. So what was selling a long time ago isn't really selling what's selling right now. But the stuff that I wrote is kind of the slow, high schooler discovers supernatural powers, gets into this big plot. The stuff that's selling now is different. It's more Hunger Games dystopia, where a lot of things happen. Anyway, there are reasons why my book isn't selling as well as it should, even though I've tried really hard to do the positioning and the packaging. I'm spending money on ads. It's still not selling. And part of that is because, it's still selling reasonably well. I think it made, it sold like 1,000 copies this month, so it's not doing terribly. But it could be doing a lot better if I had written the type of dystopian young adult fiction that's actually popular right now, that readers want to read right now. So I went back and made a big checklist. I'll post a link down below, I think, so you have some extra resources. But I made a big checklist of what the best-selling books right now have done, so that I can use that checklist in other dystopian fiction. Because I do like the genre. I would like to write more books, but as long as I'm writing more books, I want to satisfy more readers. So this isn't necessarily about writing books that sell or making money or selling out. I want my books to satisfy more readers. That's why I write. I don't think that's writing for the lowest common denominator. I think that's trying to write better books that satisfy more people. And I respect my readers enough to want to give them books that they enjoy reading. I don't think I deserve to get paid as an author unless I'm writing books that readers enjoy, and lots of readers enjoy. So that's why I write, I try to write good enough books that, hopefully millions of people will enjoy, so that I can make not only, scrape by as a struggling artist, but make a significant income. My platform, Creativity, is kind of about using your creativity to make more money, because I believe in providing value that is appreciated to the world, rather than asking for handouts or asking people to support me while I focus on my art, which is what a lot of writers and artists do, is they expect people to support them because they think they're doing a service, a public service, by doing the art. I used to believe that also when I started out and was a starving artist for several years, 10 years, and I finally figured out that I needed to provide value if I want to get paid for putting in the time and the effort. So that's what I do now, and it's working reasonably well. I'm still learning a lot, and I'm getting better all the time, but it's a lot easier for me because I am doing it with the intention of writing books that satisfy readers of a large audience. So this video got a little bit off point, but I'm going to stop it because it's already pretty long. This is day 1 of my book selling boot camp. You should download the workbook, which has 24 steps, and read through section 1, which is about preparation and planning, researching keywords, figuring out your author bio and your description, although we'll talk a little bit more about keywords and description in video 2, which is coming tomorrow. I'm going to leave a homework assignment down below the video so that you can go to probably the Facebook page and post your description or bio with the keywords where you're introducing yourself and describing yourself. Because like I said, it's really important to describe yourself in a way that your readers can immediately figure out who you are and what you're writing for. I recently went through, I was trying to, for my course, I was going through all the people who had reviewed my course, and I wanted to say what they wrote. So I went to all of their websites or their Amazon pages trying to figure out what genre they wrote, and surprisingly I couldn't find that information for the majority of authors. After looking through their books, after looking through their websites, their Amazon page, I couldn't find the information that said I write science fiction for young adult readers or for whatever. That's really important information to have. That's a big mistake that a lot of authors are making. So that's what day 1 is about, is just figuring out how to position yourself and sell yourself really quickly and immediately, so that readers know who you are and what you write and whether or not they're going to like your books. You have to present that information without them having to work for it or search for it, because they're really not going to. If your covers don't already do its job, if it's not immediately clear in your author bio what you write and who you write for, they're just going to move on to other books that are easier, because they don't have time to do the research for you. This is your job to kind of tell them what you write. So that's what this video is about. I hope it's useful. Stay tuned for the next 3 days. This is a 4-day challenge. You can also join the Guerrilla Publishing Facebook group to post and get feedback and get more engagement and meet other authors in your genre. I hope this is useful for you. If so, leave some comments and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Thanks. Bye-bye.